So welcome to 2024 Mock Draft 2.0. My last one was on, as time of recording when this comes out, probably 6 days ago. I don't know if I'll be putting this out on Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on when you guys see this. But I figure I'd get my 2.0 mock draft out of the way before we get to the final one. Well, I've said before, maybe the day before or the day of the draft. I did post my mock draft on my Twitter page at Sports Bruisers, because I wasn't sure if I was going to get this one out. I did record this earlier, and for some reason the audio didn't work, so I tried to put out, at least a mock draft image of what I put out there, just in case I couldn't get this video on. But we're going to be basically replicating what I said on that and give you my details on, the reasoning for my pick. So without further ado, we're getting into mock draft 2.0. And for this one, the first few picks are going to be pretty easy. It's going to be pretty standard to what I had in my first one. Undisputed first overall pick, Caleb Williams. Enough said. To me, he is by far the best quarterback in this draft class. And a personal favorite for me, I don't want to go as far as to say he's going to be generational. I don't like when people go that far. Before this past college season was over, there was definitely tons of talks of that because of him winning the Heisman and how phenomenal he played this year. Took a little bit of a step back, but not just solely him. The whole team in general kind of took a step back. I blame a little more the defense for the lack of a good season this past year, but no doubt still a phenomenal quarterback. And I think what they've done, the pieces around him, DJ Moore, newly acquired Keenan Allen, and DeAndre Swift, I think will do a great job there. So next we go to the Washington Commanders, and for this one, once again, we're gonna stick with Jayden Daniels. To me, he's the quarterback 2 in this draft class, and I think this will be really interesting to see in the entire of the first round. Picks 2 through 4. What's the order going to be for this one? Because I can definitely see Drake Maye going 2. I can maybe go as far as to say I can see JJ McCarthy going 2 on here, but for me, I have Jayden Daniels as my quarterback 2. I think once again he is on this similar set of a dual threat quarterback. Maybe there's some aspects of Jayden Daniels that he does in his game he does better than Caleb Williams. I think one is more the running game. Caleb Williams isn't necessarily a mobile quarterback. He doesn't necessarily want to be, but he can if he wants to. But now Jayden Daniels is more of your dual threat type of quarterback. You saw what he did this past year in the Heisman trophy. Sorry, I kind of fumbling my words here. His Heisman season they had in 2023. So right off the bat, we have back-to-back Heisman Trophy winners going on the board. But no doubt for Washington, I think this is a great pickup for the Commanders. Jayden Daniels, like I said, he has the size, has the arm, has the speed. One thing I'm a bit worried about, like I said in the first mock draft, is just some of the big hits he took. I think he'll clean that up. But overall, I think a phenomenal pick by Commanders. Next, we have is the New England Patriots, and we're going to stick with quarterback once again with Drake Maye. Again, similar set what I said through 2 through 4. I could see JJ McCarthy going 3rd overall to New England Patriots, but I think I'm going to stick with Drake Maye. Once again, has the size, 6'4", has the arm, a little bit of mobility. I don't want to kind of be the cop out and just constantly keep comparing people to Justin Herbert or Josh Allen, but he does have a similar style of that. Though as of late, you're a little bit worried is North Carolina quarterbacks. Sam Howell didn't do too bad in his first full season starting, but as we saw, Commanders move off of him, and he's now in Seattle. And then we see the last first-round pick in a North Carolina quarterback get drafted, and that was Mr. Trubisky, and that's a lot left to be desired. So a little bit worried from that history for North Carolina, but no doubt I think Drake Maye for the New England Patriots. I think that this is a good pick for this organization, moving off of Mac Jones into the next franchise quarterback. And to me, this is the guy who has the tangibles to be a franchise guy, as opposed to Mac Jones, where you did have question marks because he wasn't really great at one aspect of his game. Wasn't mobile, had an okay arm, had decent size. But for Drake Maye, I think he gives you that the tools and the mind and the set to be a franchise guy and be more plausible to become that. So this is the next trade we have. The trade I have for 4th overall is to the New York Giants. We're just going to force this trade here. This isn't the value that I have for them if they moved up. It's kind of just to make the trade easier. We have another quarterback going off the board. We have JJ McCarthy going to the New York Giants. The speculation of the Giants ramping up for them to move up. It's probably between them and the Minnesota Vikings to move up to 4. or potentially 3 if the Patriots are willing to trade down. But 4 seems like the likely landing spot for a team to trade up to. To me, I think that the Daniel Jones era is over. I think we've seen this, not all his fault, but I think we've seen plenty that he isn't the guy. He was a huge reach in 2019, being the 6th overall pick out of Duke. It's a huge swing and a miss. I'm not a big fan of JJ McCarthy either. I don't really get the hype of why he's really excelled or really risen up people's draft boards. But teams are starting to fall in love with him for whatever reason. Maybe I'm missing something, but maybe the Patriots is one of Brian Daboll. Again, I think he gives you a little bit of everything. He has a good arm, good size. He has some mobility to him, but he's going to a place where there's no offensive weapons, and that's one instance I'm worried about. But I think regardless, I think you have to move off of Daniel Jones because you've seen enough. I think that, Daboll and that GM inherited Daniel Jones, but they're the ones that decided to give him the contract, and we've seen that it is horrible so far. In 1 year into that new deal, I think you move off of him and get your next guy, maybe buy you some time in JJ McCarthy. So next we have the Los Angeles Chargers. I have the number 1 wide receiver going off the draft board in Marvin Harrison Jr. You have to help Justin Herbert out with this one. I get what I said in the mock draft 1.0. He has everything you need in it. He has his hand size, speed, route running. A little bit concerned is the yards after catch. That's what Pro Football Focus had on there, but I think that is something that he can fix on, no doubt. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is a big weapon for Justin Herbert on that offense that has been depleted this offseason with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams now being gone from the roster, as well as Austin Eckler, who played a big part in the passing game as well. So next we finally have is the Arizona Cardinals. After trading from 4 to 6, I have them taking Malik Nabers out of LSU. Makes perfect sense. Anything outside of that doesn't work. Maybe you could argue Joe Alt at this spot, but I think Malik Nabers, you need to have that weapon for Kyler Murray, who has lost guys. These prominent names the last couple of seasons with Zach Ertz, DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown. The only player he has really is James Conner. You do have decent nothing crazy, but I guess okay receivers at best they have remaining. You just got rid of Moore and a trade in the offseason as well. You have to replenish on that side, and I think Malik Nabers is a good spot in this one. So next we have the Tennessee Titans, and for this one I do have sticking with Joe Alt for this one. This could be a spot, maybe they could surprise people with taking wide receiver in Rome Odunze at this spot, which wouldn't be horrible because of, you look at the future-wise with DeAndre Hopkins after this year, he's a free agent. This could be a perfect spot for them to go. But for this, I do have the Titans once again getting offensive line help for Will Levis here. Makes a little bit of sense, and especially how deep this draft class is, I think you can skip day 1 and go into day 2 in the second round and get a productive wide receiver for Will Levis that can potentially be a wide receiver 1 depending on how they develop and who you get. But I think right now getting Joe Alt, who's the number 1 offensive lineman in the draft board, is a big takeaway from pick 7. So we have the Atlanta Falcons. We finally have the first edge rusher, or defensive player, I should say, as well as the defensive players too, off the draft board, in Dallas Turner, the best edge rusher, pass rusher in the NFL draft. And I think this is something that the Falcons need. Offense, they are set with that one. Secondary, I think overall they're pretty solid at that as well. It's just the defensive line is a little bit of an issue. And Dallas Turner, like I said, the best edge rusher in this year's draft. You look at the stat-wise, it pans out, especially having a bounce-back season from 2022, having 11 sacks, as well as 11 hits, 33 hurries, and one embattled ball. And you see 2 games played, 14 games, as well as defensive snaps, 644. And pretty even too for the pass rush and run defensive snaps as well. So had bounce back season from 2022, had a great season in 2023. Again, I think this is a phenomenal pick right here by the Atlanta Falcons. So next move is to 9th overall to Chicago, and this is a phenomenal scenario if this does happen. I have Chicago taking Rome Odunze, who once again had by far a great season this past year, having over 1,600 receiving yards, 13 touchdowns, 92 receptions, along with 140 targets. Basically had a career year all across the board. Had most receptions in his career, most targets, most yards, most yards per reception and touchdowns. Had a phenomenal year, and we saw what he did in their championship run to the championship game. Unfortunately, fell short against Michigan, but overall played phenomenal. No doubt the third of the big three in this wide receiving class, and also had to make it even better. Only had 3 drops this year on 140 targets and 92 receptions. Phenomenal, no doubt. And you're getting someone who has everything. Has the size, 6'3", 215. God, I think this is by far an amazing pick because you don't know what's going to happen with Keenan Allen. Even though you did get him for a 4th round pick, the age, contract, and also the injury as well is going to play a factor. So I don't see Keenan Allen being here for a long time for Chicago. It's a little bit of a stopgap before they get someone, and no doubt Rome Odunze could be that as well. So next we have is the New York Jets, and I believe in the last one I did have Brock Bowers going here, but for this one we're going to go with the more logical one, and we're going to have Fuega, if I pronounce his last name, from tackle from Oregon State. This makes perfect sense because of Aaron Rodgers with his Achilles injury coming off of that, and also too of him being 40 years old. Makes sense. You have to stabilize the offensive line. We saw last year, obviously this is not. We know how good how the skill level it was for quarterbacks for Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, I think I had a couple other quarterbacks play under center, but the offensive line was not good, especially for the prominent one, Zach Wilson. We can all tell that the offensive line wasn't great. Even the 4 snaps that Aaron Rodgers was in, he was under duress every single snap against Buffalo. So no doubt you have to capitalize on that. Maybe it might be pretty tempting to get Brock Bowers at this spot, but I think the more logical one, like I said, for for Atlanta, you can go in day 2 and get a productive wide receiver, so they can wait for that. I think the best bet is to go and get an offensive lineman, especially a tackle for the Jets. So next we have the Minnesota Vikings, and for this I have another quarterback coming off the board. I have Michael Penix Jr. This might be pretty high for Penix to go on here, and I think I did have Penix around this area. It might be 11. I might have had him at 12 for the Denver Broncos, but once again, had a phenomenal season. For me, was better than JJ McCarthy in the championship game. Maybe didn't play better, but I think as a quarterback this past year in college, I thought was a great quarterback. Just a little bit over 4,900 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Had a passer rating of 106.7. And once again, across the board, had his best season. The only thing I was a bit worried is the interception ratio interceptions has jumped up a little bit, going from 7 to 8 to 11. But I think he will clean up a little bit. Looking at size wise, decent, 6'3", 213. The age is a little bit of concern with him. About to be 24 years old, I believe, pretty soon. So that is a little bit of concern with his age, and also you look at why he was in the college for so long is because of injuries. One was because of COVID, which is can't knock him. Was given an additional year, and that's something too. And there are a little bit questions here. Long arm requires longer sidearm windup. Let's see, does not always throw with a strong base. Sometimes he's pushing the ball with the upper body and strength. And of course, you see the other ones too. But the other one was a big one is that doesn't say on here is just the injuries. Had decent injury history in his collegiate career. But I think without that, but besides that, I think Minnesota Vikings at 11, they need to get a franchise guy. I know they said they feel comfortable with Sam Darnold being the quarterback this year. I don't think so. And one that could be. For Bills fans' sake, hopefully if it does happen for our sake. But one thing you have to worry about is you don't have your 2nd round pick next year in 2025, which could be a pretty high value pick. I know it's not anything; it's a 2nd round pick, but you look at the implications for that. You're gonna be screwed in day 2 for 2025. Maybe down the stretch you acquire a 2nd round pick in whatever trade or any scenario whatsoever, but that's a big loss if that is a high pick and you still need a lot of holes to fill in your team. That is definitely a big factor. Again, nothing huge, not talking about 1st round picks, but that is definitely something. And I don't think they want to waste anyone else's time, especially with Justin Jefferson asking for a contract extension. I don't think you want to do anything that's going to ruin that and have him leave Minnesota. Michael Penix Jr. has has a lot of time in college. You know what type of quarterback he is. I think this is a great selection at 3. And to me, I'm a big fan of Michael Penix. Maybe I'm being a little bit little overhyping him up, but I do like him as a quarterback. I think he is great. I don't know if I was goes as far as say he'll be elite, but no doubt if he could potentially be elite, you look at the offense they have, like I said, with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. That's a great trio of wide receivers to help Michael Penix out. So next we go to the Denver Broncos, and for this one, he's right here. I do have Brock Bowers going to 12 to the Denver Broncos. This could be another spot here, and I was tempted to put Bo Nix at 12 and have 6 quarterbacks go off in the top 15. That's certainly a possibility. But for some reason, I feel like the Denver Broncos are going to pass on that. I don't know why, but I just feel like with Sean Payton and them, I feel like they're going to pass up on quarterback. Unless Bo Nix falls to day 2, they might be a candidate to try and trade up and select Bo Nix, and that's certainly a possibility. But sticking to round 1, I'm going to stick with Brock Bowers for this one. By far the best tight end in this draft class. A little bit undersized for the position if you look at him being. Well, it goes back and forth, I should say, because I see someone say 6'3", this says 6'4", so he's good enough size. So apologies for that. I'm getting mixed up with someone else, but I feel like I have seen other stats of his physical makeup being a little bit smaller by this one. But no, at 6'4", 240. You look at the stats, nothing too crazy that jumps out to like 2022 or 2021. But still had a solid season with 717 yards on 56 receptions for 6 touchdowns. The targets are pretty good for tight ends, pretty consistent, 71, 82, 71. In a little bit less games, he didn't play a full season, but no doubt very versatile. You look at the snaps at 312, 121 inline snaps, and then 148 for a slot. This kind of reminds me of Dalton Kincaid, where he can be another person you want to compare to the NFL level, and that's what he is going to be, but how he's utilized is Travis Kelce, where he is at times could be at the wide receiver position and also be a traditional tight end. This is something I can definitely see with Brock Bowers, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was one of the better tight ends in the NFL after year 1 or during year 1. He has potential, and no doubt I think there's a great pickup for the Denver Broncos, seeing that they just got rid of Jerry Jeudy. There's talks about Courtland Sutton maybe getting traded. They feel the offers, but we don't know if someone's going to happen maybe on draft night where he can be moved. But as of right now, I think Brock Bowers, if you're not going to go quarterback, this is the best spot to go. So next up we have is the Las Vegas Raiders, and we're going to be going with defense here. We're going to go with Quinnen Mitchell from Toledo for the Raiders. And to me, again, he's all over the place. I've seen for like rankings, some people have Arnold as number 1, Mitchell as number 1. It goes a little bit back and forth, but no doubt, either way, it doesn't go wrong with this one. You look at what he did this past year, gave up a little bit more in the passer rating, but still great. You look at from 2021, he's come a long way from 78.2 all the way down to 34.8, but like I said, went back up to 51.1. Interceptions went down a little bit, going from 5 in 2022 to 1 in 2023, but no doubt, once again, still pretty being consistent with 290 yards on 27 receptions and 62 targets. 0 touchdowns this past year, so very phenomenal in 3 games. And like I said, for defensive coverage and 781 snaps, 437 were in coverage. And no doubt, once again, you look at what he was able to do. Forced incompletion 17, dropped interceptions, unfortunately 3, which he could have gone back up to the similar count he did in 2022. Coverage stops 11, missed tackles, not a lot, only 3. Like I said, overall, I think this you can't go wrong with him. Good size here, 6 foot, 196. No doubt, this is a phenomenal pick for the Las Vegas Raiders for Antonio Pierce to rebuild that side and build off of what he did in the second half of the season when he came to interim head coach after Josh McDaniels was fired. I think there's a great spot right here. Could you go Arnold in this spot? I would understand if you did, but I have Quinnen Mitchell going here at 13. So next we have the New Orleans Saints. Wide receiver is definitely in play for this one, no doubt. I do have Troy from Washington going here. I think you have to find a replacement for Terrence Armstead. Obviously, you lost him. I think that's a big loss they had for that Saints offense, but you have to see the reason why. The salary cap, and they've had salary cap problems for feels like forever now. It honestly does. Got wide receiver could definitely be a spot here. If I had to pick a wide receiver, probably Brian Thomas Jr. to replace Michael Thomas that just got cut. As right now he's still a free agent. Reason why being so injury riddled and how he was for the last 3 seasons, barely played for the Saints. But I think offensive line is key to help Derek Carr out and to keep him upright. Definitely had a underwhelming season this past year. Part of it too is his fault, but I think part of it as well is just having a better offensive line, and I think Troy can go along with in that. So next we have is the Indianapolis Colts, and this is where we have the next cornerback coming off the board. And like I said, we were just talking about him in Arnold. I do have Tron Arnold going to the Indianapolis Colts for this one. Overall, had a good year too. Again, 840 snaps, which is a ton. 471 in coverage, and 79 targets. He led only 41 receptions for 441 yards for 2 touchdowns. Had 5 interceptions, and held the quarterback to a 50.7 passer rating when throwing his way, and was a huge improvement going back when you look at from 2022 when he had 82.5 passer rating as well. Yards is a little bit more from last year, but again, I think overall he had a great season last year, this past college season, and I say can go back and forth between him and Mitchell for the best cornerbacks in this draft class, but no doubt, I think a great pickup for the Indianapolis Colts for this one. I know the need says wide receiver, but for me, I'm pretty high on Alec Pierce and Josh Downs, along with bringing back Michael Pittman Jr. for Anthony Richardson, along with Jonathan Taylor. So, but once, same thing too. You can go and draft day 2, or maybe potentially in day 3, whoever's available, and you can get a good receiver to get good production out of receivers there. But I think passing on Toronto Arnold is hard to do at this spot. So number 16 for the Seattle Seahawks, I have Leuteu from UCLA. McDonald was just hired as the coach from Baltimore Ravens, and you saw what he was able to do as a defensive coordinator in Baltimore. They were more than good enough to go to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, the offense just couldn't get it done, holding the Kansas City Chiefs to 17 points in that one. But you saw again what he was able to do. You saw all the Pro Bowlers they had. They had both their linebackers, Queen and Roquan Smith, both inside linebackers, make the Pro Bowl for the AFC, along with, I believe, a few more on that defensive side as well. So you look at the job he did a phenomenal job, and now he becomes the youngest coach in the NFL now, if I have that right. Wants to rebuild that defense, and I think Leuteu gives you that as well. You look at the size overall, 6'5", 265, a little bit up there in age at 23 years old, but production was phenomenal. His best year with 15 sacks and with 535 snaps. He had 304s in the passing, 210 was in the rush. He had 11 also to add on top of the 15 sacks. He had 11 hits, 36 hurries. But no doubt, I think once again, great size for this one, 6'5", 265, and no doubt athletic as well. And that brings such great versatility to that Seahawks defense. It already has phenomenal pieces on there as well. So I have Leuteu going at 16. Next, we have at 17 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Once again, we have another edge rusher going off the board. Jared Verse for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Another one. All 3 of these guys, Turner, Verse, and Leuteu, are in the mix to be the number 1. I've seen some that have Leuteu as number 1 edge rusher. I saw some that have Turner as number 1. I've seen some Verse have Verse as number 1. Sorry, I keep getting my words mixed up, but no doubt all of them have the accolades, all of them have the stats to back up the seasons, to back up why they should be number 1. I don't think you can go wrong with Jared Verse right here. Again, same thing too, 11 sacks, 15 hits, 36 hurries, and 2 batted balls. And you also, once again, too, pretty good on the defensive snaps at 586 in 13 games played, and really was a good part in that defense as why Florida State went undefeated in the regular season before losing to the bowl game, obviously to Georgia, but definitely made the case as to why they should have made the playoffs. But that's a different story for that one. And same thing too, similar size. So Tau 6'4", 260. Again, phenomenal size. What for Jacksonville, and to pair him up with Josh Allen, who they just re-signed to a big extension, would help him pair him up with another partner. I probably can't think of the word right now, but definitely a sidekick. There you go, to go alongside with him to help that defensive line out. So next is we have the Cincinnati Bengals. To me, this is another no-brainer for this one for Joe Burrow. From Penn State, Fashanu, if I pronounce that right as well. Makes sense. You saw Joe Burrow has already had his second season-ending injury in his short NFL career. He's starting to remind me of Andrew Luck, and I don't want to see another Andrew Luck happen in the NFL, especially into another first overall pick in Joe Burrow. He's had a phenomenal start to his NFL career, going to 2 AFC Championship games, going to the Super Bowl. No doubt he is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but you have to keep him upright. You have to keep him healthy. I know they tried in the past. It hasn't worked, but you have to keep trying. And no doubt Fashanu can certainly do that. You look at the size, 6'6", 319, has a size, has everything I think you need. He allowed in his career in 3 years, at least shown in 3 years, 0 sacks, and that is huge. I think that's all you need to see for the stat line. 0 sacks. He's let 1 hurry in 3 years and 1 hit in 3 seasons, and 16 hurries in 3 years as well. The only thing that's a little bit worrisome is just for the games played. Now, I'm not sure if this is just because of injury or his other people start over him. But you look at, if you want to see just a small sample size for the season, in 12 games, played absolutely phenomenal. This one, again, lying 0 sacks, 0 hits, and only 10 hurries. I think that's all you need to know for Cincinnati Bengals to know for this one. So next we have the Rams. And I have the next replacement for Aaron Donald. Not saying he's going to be Aaron Donald, but to try and at least build that defensive line with Byron Murphy. The second, he did have a little bit of a off the field problem a few weeks ago with DUI, but I think this is something, he may fall a tad bit. Who knows? Maybe before this DUI, maybe he goes a bit higher than 19. But this is probably a good spot where he goes regardless. In 14 games played and 438 snaps, 273 were pass. 164 was rush. He did have his career best with 6 sacks, 3 hits, and 36 hurries. He's not too much of a pass rusher, even though it did say 6 sacks. I view him more as kind of like a run stuffer. Not saying go as far as say Vita, but I wouldn't expect a pass rusher like Aaron Donald. Not expect that for anybody, but more just of a run stuffer. He could give you that if he develops right into a good pass rusher and give you that 6 sacks, but you see what in the previous 2 years, what he did, 1 or 2, that I think is more what he could be. But again, if you can help him develop more, no doubt you can probably get more to that 6+ sack range. And a little bit undersized, height-wise, 6'1", but he has a good weight, 308. But no doubt, once again, I think it's a good piece to put in the defensive line who just lost a future Hall of Famer in Aaron Donald. Next for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think this is where the wide receiver drought ends after we hit the last one at 9. I have Brian Thomas Jr. going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. What he offers you it's phenomenal. He has everything. He has the size. He is a little bit limited to his route running, but he gives you 6'4", 205. Stats was phenomenal alongside Malik Neighbors and took a huge jump that people were expecting. You look at the previous 2 seasons, 359, 361, nothing too great, and then he takes a huge jump with over 1,100 receiving yards, 17 touchdowns on 68 receptions. Looking at his cons, definitely one. I think route running was one. Not a lot of experience versus press. Catch percentage is lower than preferred the past 3 years, though 2023 was best. And not make you miss type of receiver after the catch. I think listening to the radio too. I think people talking about it, for Bills, for Buffalo radio, talking about for the Bills because Brian Thomas Jr. for us is definitely on the radar as a potential pick for the Bills. It's a person that was people they were talking to people who covered LSU, and I think another concern was certainly his route running ability needs to grow a little bit more. as do all receivers, but has to develop a little bit more. But I think no doubt Brian Thomas Jr. gives you a big body of receiver to go alongside with George Pickens, and I think that'd be a phenomenal pick for Steelers to help Justin Fields, or maybe Justin Fields if we see him this year, but Russell Wilson for this upcoming season. Next is the Miami Dolphins, and I have offensive lineman once again, J.C. Latham. It's key to keep Tua healthy. There's no disputing that whatsoever. He did have a much better year this year with health-wise as opposed to 2022 when he had supposedly 3 concussions in one season, and some people were even going so far as to say that he should retire. He bounced back this year and had statistically wise, had a phenomenal year, led the league in passing. Towards the end, he did have a shoulder injury. That was, I think, the big injury or big neck that he had on him for the season. But again, led the league in passing, had a great year, made the Pro Bowl. I think again overall, just you want to continue off that, and definitely the tough part's going to be just the contract extension. That's a different time, different video for a different day. What he's going to get paid for, if they're going to give him the money he wants, if they can even get a deal done. But I think more importantly, if you're a future and you do have your eyes on him being the franchise quarterback, keep him healthy is huge, because Tua, even though he stayed healthy, he's not a big quarterback. Maybe he put a little bit more weight on. Whatever he did, maybe he's getting in better shape, but at the end of the day, he's still a small quarterback. You have to help him out. I think J.C. Latham helps him, no doubt, in this spot here. Again, you look at this, the stats, only allowing 2 sacks this year with 3 hits and 9 hurries. And this one, I think a solid pick here, 6'6", 335. I think it's a great pick here for the Dolphins. Keep Tua healthy. Next, for the Philadelphia Eagles, we're going to be sticking to, once again, offensive lineman, and why not get Jason Kelce's replacement in Jackson Powers-Johnson. Same thing, too. Great size, 6'3", 320. And stats, once again, same thing as a tackle from Ohio State. He has allowed 0 sacks in the last 3 years, 1 hit in 3 years, and 3 hurries in the last 3 years. I think that is absolutely phenomenal. And you look at the snap count, especially in 2023, when it was a huge jump up from 400 in 2022 to 829 this past season. And this, once again, to allow 1 hurry, 0 hits, 0 sacks, that is absolutely phenomenal. And that's key for Justin Fields, because some people feel like that's a huge loss to the offense, and they're going to take a little bit of a step back because of Jason Kelce. Not saying that they're wrong about that, but I think Jackson Powers-Johnson instantly fixes that issue with it. Not saying he's going to live up to what what Jason Kelce was, but you have to get younger that offensive line, and center is definitely the safest pick in the first round at any position if you had to pick one. And Jackson Powers-Johnson, I think, is a phenomenal pick for the Eagles to help keep the offensive line intact and keep the offense going, especially the tush push. No doubt they have to get someone that's going to be good enough to keep running that for Jalen Hurts. And again, I think it's a great pick right here for the Philadelphia Eagles at 22. So next, the Minnesota Vikings at 23. Like I said, if you guys recall, we had the Vikings picking Michael Penix Jr. at 11. What do we have for 23 at this one? I have defense on this pick, and we are going to go with Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. Again, gives you decent size with this, good size for this one, 6'1", 195. I think a little bit bigger than Turner. And stat-wise, once again, the only thing that's a little bit concerned is a passer rating. It went back up again. You look at 2021, 79.7, then drops down to 57.9, then goes back to 73.1. But even then, I think overall he did a good job, only allowing 205 yards, 1 touchdown on 19 receptions on 39 targets. So wasn't targeted a lot as opposed to last year with 80 targets. But I think overall it still has the first round ability, no doubt, in this one, playing alongside Turner. And I think Minnesota struggling a little bit on defense and losing pieces on that side the last few years, and some people getting aging in that spot. I think this is definitely key, and defense was a little bit of an issue last year, no doubt. They did get better as the year went on, but I think Kool-Aid McKinstry would be a good pick here at 23. So next we have the Dallas Cowboys, and similar to what we talked about for the Philadelphia Eagles, I have Amarius Mims going to Texas, from Georgia to the Dallas Cowboys, and the size, I mean, some people have him listed at 6'8". They have him 6'7", 340. Phenomenal size in this one. And then once again, you look at the stats. It's great. It's amazing. The only thing that's a little bit concerned is just the games. It's not a lot these 3 years, especially this year being the lowest. Only 7 games played, but when he does play, it's phenomenal. He's a wall. It is tough for defenders to get around, but once again, it's a little bit worrisome with the injury risk. And I think if he wasn't, I like to believe if it wasn't for the injuries and he played full seasons, he might have gone sooner in the draft. But amazing value, 6'7", 340, and what he's been able to do when he plays, that's gonna help immensely with Dak Prescott. So I have another trade happening here. A little bit surprised for this one. Now I've been hearing a lot from the Bills, move up for a wide receiver, but for this one I don't think they will. Even though there is one still on the draft board, I'm gonna go a different route with this. I'm gonna go with Cooper DeJean. And I know you have Adonai Mitchell still on the board. The reason why, as of right now, I do have the Bills passing on Mitchell is because of, I'm sure maybe you saw this. I have to see if I can try and put the article in the description. Was a part of people or scouts being concerned about his diabetic problem, with him being a type 1 diabetic. That kind of leads into the I don't know if it's the right term to say mood swings, attitude problems, and so forth. A little bit difficult. I know one is certainly he doesn't give effort, 100% effort if he knows the play isn't for him, which is one which, I mean, there's a good amount of receivers that do that as well. But part of the problem is the attitude, the concerns with his attitude, which once again you could kind of wrap it up as saying, well, all receivers at some point have that, especially the top ones have that. And it's tough to pass upon that, but no doubt, I think for looking at, I also look at too is the Stephon Diggs perspective as well, with him having kind of have problems with that as well on Twitter and so forth, and behind the scenes between him and Josh. When you hear some of the stories, I don't know if they want to jump into a receiver to replace Diggs that has similar problems, and maybe does it differently, but has similar problems in that where you don't want to deal with that once again. But I think you look at someone like Cooper DeJean for Sean McDermott and what he's able to do, absolutely versatile. 6'1", 207. Did play corner in Iowa. So a lot of people expect him to switch to safety in the NFL, but I think once again it speaks for itself. He has progressed phenomenally from 2021 to 2023, allowing a 37.8 pass rating. You look at 2021, 93.8 was what he allowed. Now, he only played 2 games, small sample size for that one, but he's come a long way. 705 defensive snaps and 46 targets, only 20 receptions for 194 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Again, absolutely versatile and athletic for this Bills defense. Along with that too, you look at some great size for a cornerback, stout run defense, quick, controlled footwork, and the back pedal allows him to veer and break exactly how he needs to. Good instincts on the ball, football IQ. A little bit of a concern, looking at the only 199 snaps in press, less than 25% over the last 2 years. In change of direction, acceleration, when fully flipped, flipping his hips can slow him because of his size. But I think this is something that going to Buffalo and how the defense has been since Sean McDermott's been there can easily fix. So you can kind of chalk this up as having no cons whatsoever and look at all the positive, because I think he would be absolutely versatile and a huge playmaker for the Bills. They've been missing maybe the last 2 years because of Poyer and Hyde getting up there in age and also with injury. This is no doubt an immediate instant impact, an immediate day one starter for the Buffalo Bills. Again, maybe be a little bit surprised because you have Adonai Mitchell and you want to focus on Josh Allen. This is, to me as a Bills fan, this is the only acceptable defensive player I'd be okay with passing over a wide receiver. Anything else on that, I'd be furious if they pick someone over a receiver on the defensive side. But if Cooper DeJean falls this far in the draft and you're able to move up and get him, and this is what you decide to do, Maybe I'd be in minority in this one. Maybe there'd still be a ton of Bills fans upset if this happened. I'd be completely okay with this. I would be happy if we selected them. Outside of that, and most likely I don't know if the Bills move up for him, but just looking at the defensive side, especially that safety, that secondary position, Cooper DeJean is absolutely versatile. If you need to play corner, he can. You need to play him safety, which it looks like he will. He can. I think this is to me what he's able to do has Sean McDermott written all over it for the defense. So I have Cooper DeJean going to 25 to the Bills trading up for him. Next, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for this pick. I have an edge rusher going here. I have Chop Robinson going to the from Penn State going to Tampa Bay. Stats aren't too crazy as a pass rusher. The sack total especially is a lot left to be desired with 3 hits, 5 hurries, 18 batted balls, 1. It's again pass rush. Getting to the quarterback. Even though the overall grades have been phenomenal the last 2 years, it's a lot left to be desired. But you look at the ability, what he's able to do, 6'3", 250, is it definitely you can't teach that. And he has a huge upside. There's a natural low and loaded stance, explosive off the foot or front foot with the consistency, elite first step explosiveness and acceleration up arc. But you see the cons, and it's a decent list. It is, no doubt. But you're picking Chop Robinson not because of what he did in college, but what he can be in the NFL potentially if developed right. Whether that's a good thing or not, or a red flag, I think for Tampa Bay they can develop him with his size and be a great pass rusher, no doubt, with this one. So I have Chop Robinson going to 26 to Tampa. So for the Arizona Cardinals, their first pick, like I said, was Malik Nabers at 6. I have Nate Wiggins going to Clemson, from Clemson going to Arizona. Good size too, 6'2", 185. You look what he did this year, absolutely phenomenal. And 41 targets, let 18 receptions for 176, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Again, you look at forced incompletions, 7, 0 dropped interceptions, missed tackles had 4, coverage stops 8. Once again, I think absolutely phenomenal in this one. You look at the splits for snaps by alignment. Again, I think for Gannon, this is what he wants. This is what he wants in the defense and what he did in Philadelphia, especially the historic defense he had in 2022. And he wants to slowly rebuild that. You already focused on offense, getting an elite receiver in Malik Nabers. I think you go out there and get a great cornerback in Nate Wiggins as well. So next we have the Green Bay Packers, who originally were at 25 and traded down to 28. I have an offensive tackle going to the Browns. Excuse me. I have an offensive tackle going to the Green Bay Packers, and I have Tyler Guyton, if you want, however you pronounce it, from Oklahoma. Once again, great, amazing size, 6'7", 327. Allowed 0 sacks this year, 3 hits, 9 hurries. Look at his analysis. A little bit of strikes is, strike placement is off, allowing defenders to more easily roll off his blocks. Hand placement is very inconsistent when it comes to strike locations and gripping the right spot to maintain blocks as well. And of course, you can kind of pause and see what else he is, with pros and cons. But again, another player you have to develop in, but losing your letting our tackle go in the offseason, I think it is a huge loss because he was there for a while. He has a little bit of injury concern problems, but I think Tyler Gunn could step in and be a developmental tackle. Maybe a slow start for him early in his career, but the upside is phenomenal with his size. Similar to what we just talked about for Amarius Mims for Dallas, can be a great part for Jordan Love in this one. So next we have the Detroit Lions. I have another edge rusher coming off the board with this one. I have Darius Robinson from Missouri going to the Detroit Lions. This year he has career year in sacks with 9. Hurries was tied with 6. Hits. I always get hurries and the hits mixed up. Hits 6, hurries 27, batted balls 0. Had defense snaps at 515. You look at the alignment. Outside of tackle 395. Over the tackle 104. And I think once got amazing size, 6'5", 296. I think it's definitely something you need to pair up alongside Aiden Hutchinson. Similar to what I said about in pick 17 with Josh Allen, with Jacksonville, with Jared Verse. I think it's a great pairing for Aiden Hutchinson, who's been spectacular his first 2 years. So next we have the Baltimore Ravens, and this is where I do have Adonai Mitchell, or A.D. Mitchell, going to Baltimore. You look at the size, 6'4", 196. Stats, maybe don't jump off the board necessarily. Didn't have 1,000 yards receiving in his career, but did have his career best with 845 receptions or 845 yards on 55 receptions, 11 touchdowns on 86 targets. You look at the analysis. They do compare him to T. Higgins, which, no doubt could be in this one. You look at the pros: fast, fluid route runner with his first size, fast footwork and quick release off the line, effective shoulder dip when running by defenders. But some of the cons, it's could do a better job at attacking the ball in the air. Release speed is fast, but there is some false and wasted stops. His body language effort can be very difficult when he's a primary receiver versus when he's not. So a little bit we talked about when I was going to the Bills analysis and why I didn't have him taking Adonai Mitchell when trading up to and having Cooper DeJean at that spot. That is a little bit of a concern with that one. I just don't know if the Bills want to jump in and get someone like that. But I think another place that can certainly help. I'm not saying if he went to Buffalo that they couldn't do that, fix that. But another great organization that he'd be going to is Baltimore with Harbaugh and what in the locker room and what they've been able to do, especially with Lamar Jackson. Not character concerns, not saying that, but with great people there with Lamar Jackson and many other ones in there, especially Lamar Jackson being the leader, 2-time MVP. There's the reason why he's been successful. He has definitely been a great leader for that team, and no doubt he would go a long way in helping Adonai Mitchell come in and get his footing in the NFL and have a similar type of season like Zay Flowers did. I think Zay Flowers had a great rookie season this past year, and I think it was no doubt a slam dunk picking Zay Flowers in the first round. I think you go back this year, back-to-back years, and select a wide receiver in the first round and get Adonai Mitchell and be a great asset for the Baltimore Ravens, because I think they really lacked that at wide receiver too. When you had Odell Beckham that didn't do anything and didn't produce, Adonai Mitchell is automatically an upgrade at that position. Next, we have the San Francisco 49ers, and I do have a tackle going this one. I have Graham Barden from Duke, versatile in the sense of he can play anywhere on the offensive line, can play tackle, can play inside. And I think what you could look at maybe is a Trent Williams replacement, because pretty soon with the cap problems I think they would have, Trent Williams could be a cut candidate in a couple years, or whatever that may be. Another aspect of it too is just the age. He's getting up there in age as well, so it should be a little bit of concern. I think you try and find someone to replace him, or maybe put him on the other tackle position for Barden. But I think this is a developmental one to step up and potentially replace Trent Williams, or you put him on the line somewhere else as well and help out for the Brock Purdy, the offensive line. So finally, we're getting to last pick 32 for the Kansas City Chiefs, the back-to-back Super Bowl champions. What do I have? I'm going to stick with what I had in the first mock draft. I do believe either that or I may have Xavier Legette at pick 32, but I'm pretty sure I had Xavier Worthy going at 32 for the Chiefs. Why not? This is a last pick in the draft. This is similar to Clyde Edwards-Helaire when they won the Super Bowl. Why? And it's like, just why not? It's a throwaway pick. I don't want to say it's a throwaway pick because they're all important, but in the last pick of the first round, go out there and get the person that you want. And I think this is someone they really are targeting and are high on the draft boards with Xavier Worthy. Similar, what's the go-to comparison? Tyreek Hill, because of the blazing speed, being 4.2 for his 40-yard dash, breaking the 40-yard dash at the Combine back in March. Big concerns is just his size. Not strong, can definitely get control on press, but he can't teach what he has. I mean, the other concern is just size-wise, 163 like we talked about, but you can't teach speed, and that's something that the Chiefs have experience in with Tyreek Hill and the success they had. Tyreek Hill is going to be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. Even though Tyreek Hill is a bigger receiver than Xavier Worthy, why not take the chance and try and strike lightning twice again and hit big on Xavier Worthy and try that? Why not? Because he's not going to be available the next time you pick. It might be a little bit of a little bit high for Xavier Worthy, depending on how you feel about him. But the next time the Chiefs pick in the second round, he's not going to be on the draft board. He will be gone in round 2. So why not take this chance and pick him at 32? So this is my mock draft 2.0. Like I said, I did put that out there as a post just in case if I couldn't get this one out. But once again, do a little bit of overview once again to show you what the 32 picks were. But like I said, this is mock draft 2.0. I will be putting my last one out. Like I said, once again, maybe the day before the draft or the day of the draft. We'll have to see when I have time to do whatever day works better for me. But we will do one more before draft night on April 25th.